ops, and a little bit of paranoia. Welcome to the Iron Sysadmin Podcast. Welcome to tonight's episode of the Iron Sysadmin Podcast, folks. I'm your host, Nate, and tonight I'm joined by two of our usual co-hosts, and we're trying out something new, so I'm very sorry if this is going horribly. But I've got Jason and I've got Mark with me tonight, and we're trying out a new method of streaming, so please, if you see anything weird technically, let us know, and I will endeavor to fix it.
And just remember, any weirdness is Nate's fault.
Right, and Jason and I have bourbon, so we're good.
I don't.
I said Jason and I.
I have this much water to drink, and that's it.
Oh, water.
So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about social media, everybody's favorite thing, the Facebook. And you have to precede it with the, just because.
Right.
I hear every time someone says that, Mark Zuckerberg gets stubs his toe or something, right?
I'm all about the Zuck stubbing his toe, man.
I think that's totally true. So, you may have noticed if you're on Facebook or pretty much any social media platform at the moment, it's kind of a dumpster fire. There's basically, it all started, well, it didn't all start, but it became very clear around the point where everything started going to hell because of COVID. People just started throwing around these weird conspiracy theories, and then everybody got all divided, and everybody's fighting left and right about, oh, the masks are stupid. Why are we wearing the masks? Oh, but you have to wear the masks. It's your civic duty, and blah, blah, blah. Trying to avoid either side of any of these conversations that have really sparked all this, but it really made me feel like Facebook is just not a fun place to be right now, right? So it led me to remove the app from my phone, and I check it I don't know, once a day or so, just to sort of check in and see if anyone's trying to get a hold of me or whatever. And Jason's putting on his mask. But basically, it made me... initially, this topic was going to be, how do you ditch Facebook, right? The problem is, I haven't figured that out. Mark, I don't think you figured that out either. Jason, I know you haven't used Facebook in 8 years or something.
I was on Facebook for 2 weeks once.
Yeah, I remember, because I joined right around the same time you did, and then you left, and I didn't.
I logged in to create the account, and I logged in to delete the account.
I think you were on it more than that.
No.
It might have only been 2 weeks, but still, it was, yeah.
Nope, I logged in to create it, and then I started getting all sorts of emails from people that I have no interest in talking to ever, and never really found the time to dig into it, and deleted it because I was tired of getting emails.
Are you going to keep that mask on the whole show?
I'm going to try.
Oh, my nightmare.
Are you like that guy driving down the highway with the mask on?
Good luck with the bourbon with the mask.
Yeah, right.
I think you're going to not have a choice.
I think you found a reason to take the mask off. There you go.
He's going to be stubborn.
Listen, Mark, I know you don't know Jason that well yet. Stubborn is a pretty good description.
It's all good. I like stubborn. I can work with stubborn.
Which is probably why he's been off Facebook for so long. Or why he never really bought into Facebook in the first place, I should say. Because he's stubborn.
Because I like the idea of Twitter better.
Well, yeah,
I don't
Twitter...
need to be notified of everybody following and unfollowing me. And if you don't want to see what I'm saying, then don't pay attention to it.
Right. These are all things we're going to get into, I think. Because what I did was, about a week ago or so, I went to Twitter and Facebook, believe it or not. And and from the Iron Sysadmin account, I went and I shared... simply asking folks, do you use Facebook? Did you ditch Facebook? And if you did, kind of where did you go? What are you doing now instead of it? That sort of thing. And,
where do we go?
Right.
Where do we go now? Little Guns N' Roses. Not a
Where
Disney.
do we go? Whoa.
Come on, you got it in your head now.
Yeah, I'm going to be singing that all night now.
Go, Axel.
So, at any rate, I got a couple responses. Some from folks I know personally and some from folks I don't recognize, but I'm just going to kind of go through a couple of the responses. And then I went and got a lot more responses from coworkers, which, for any of you that know where Mark and I work, you might guess that could be an interesting set of responses.
A little bit.
So, from Twitter, I got basically, and I should note, I got 0 responses from Facebook. So apparently whoever read it on Facebook is still on Facebook. That's weird. So, I got one from Peter on Twitter, and this is actually a previous coworker of mine. He says he removed Facebook from his phone for the privacy, or when all those privacy scandals were about. Remember, there was a point where like, oh, Facebook is tracking everywhere you go. Facebook turns on your mic and listens to you. Facebook turns on your camera without you knowing it because
Which
the app.
time?
What's that?
Which time?
Which time? Well, so I mean, some of these were like kind of debunked, and other ones were not. And basically,
Some
people
of them
were
are ongoing.
right. People were like, oh, well, when you install the Facebook app, it asks for permission to use your camera. Yeah, well, that's because you can take pictures with the Facebook app. Of course, it asks to use your camera. Yes, it means they can turn the camera on whenever they want, I suppose.
So I have a question.
What's your question?
To stick with the convention, should it be the Facebook app?
Yes, it's the Facebook app.
Okay, just checking.
Just so he stubs his toe again?
Just so we know. So
Right.
it's the Facebook app.
Right,
Okay.
There's
Very
two
good.
those in there. So anyway, he says, removed any personal information that was not required. I much prefer Instagram, Facebook Lite, if you will, because sharing pictures was a nice component that I valued and is typically positive, well, unless you follow the right people, in content and comment, right? And he also responded and said, the biggest reason I dropped it, aside from the negativity, was the time suck and distraction that Facebook transforms any standard handheld device. And that's not wrong, right? So Facebook is all about trying to draw you back into the platform.
Oh yeah.
To his point, I don't know if either of you have used Instagram. I use it to some extent because of the Jeep stuff, because it's Jeeping and YouTubing is a very visual medium, and Instagram is a perfect venue for that. But I can't disagree. I think he's right. I haven't seen the same sort of dumpster fire that I'm seeing on Facebook, on Instagram. So, I don't know.
It's there, but Instagram is much more Twitter-like,
Yeah.
where you don't, it's not going to just start showing up in your feed
Right.
for no reason.
Now, the problem, if you're looking at it from a privacy perspective, which has to be one of the concerns here, right? Because we are talking about Facebook, is that Instagram is owned by Facebook, right? So if you're gonna be like, oh my God, Facebook is evil, I can't be on their platform, then you really shouldn't be on Instagram either, right? It's kind of the same thing. So yeah, that was Peter's comment.
Aren't they supposed to be like bringing that all in line? Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, they're unifying the platforms.
I've heard rumors of that. I don't know that it's actually happening. I mean, it could be.
What's Faceagram?
What's Faceagram? That's exactly what they're going to do. I realize now I don't have anywhere to put my drink that's not going to be like, bam, whenever I set it down.
Oh dear.
It's still going to suck every time I put it down. Okay. Right. The next one I got was from one of our patrons, Linux Sys 666. He says he deactivated his account about 6 months ago. Haven't missed it. He said the signal to noise ratio was quite low by then.
By then.
I don't know if that means that there was more noise than signal.
Well, yeah, that's usually what it means.
Low SNR is more signal, less noise.
Yeah, it seems backwards to me. I just use Telegram and Twitter occasionally now. Also, these pocket computers have a telephone in them, so I've got back to using that feature.
Telephone?
I know, that's weird. Is that like where you talk to people? Oh, wait, that's what we're doing right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Except it's not on the phone. We're back to...
I don't like the phone.
I just realized that
I don't like being called.
We have gone back during this pandemic. We're all spending time on video calls and Zoom, right? We've gone back to the model where you have a phone connected to the wall. Except it's not quite connected to the wall. It's sitting on top of your desk, right?
Well, but
in order to get a quality voice and video call going, you have to kind of be at a laptop, right? So you're going to be sitting. It's not going to be this thing you have in your pocket. I mean, sure, you can use a smartphone for it, but it's never good. You have that guy that's like,
I hate that guy.
bad audio and walking through the mall or whatever.
And that guy's on every friggin' call I'm on.
That
except
guy's on
this
every
one.
call.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, I'm just looking at the chat. There were some chats coming in
Oh,
from
yeah.
Mark and Joshua, but I've got a show to run, so maybe you guys can go check out chat. All right, and Will from Twitter, he says he left last year, switched mostly to Twitter or just nothing at all, and I wrote back and I asked him how life was without it, if he feels like he's missing out or if he just doesn't care, and he wrote back and basically said he doesn't care. He doesn't feel like he's missing anything. He'd say better without it. Most of what was left was political or irrelevant to my life, which drove me away. And I got to say, I sympathize.
I gotta admit, I am definitely seeing where a lot of these fine folk are coming from,
Mm-hmm.
because I can be in a great friggin' mood, like real life is going really well, and I'll crack open Facebook and someone has posted something. Now, should I really care what this person said? Probably not. But all of a sudden, I'm annoyed at them.
Yep, you do anyway,
Like
right?
they've I failed my willpower save, and all of a sudden I'm in a bad friggin' mood, and I have to feel that, and then suddenly I'm committing. Oh God, how would Vizzini put it from The Princess Bride? Major tactical error, or the terrible strategic error, or whatever.
Oh.
Trying to change someone's mind on the internet.
Yeah, right.
It's not invading Russia, but you're trying to change somebody's mind on the internet.
But it's Facebook. Aren't you supposed to like be vested in anything anybody says?
That's apparently
And that's the ridiculous part to it, right? I sometimes joke that one very valuable thing Facebook can teach us, and this harkens back to what you were saying at the beginning a little bit, Jason. Facebook can make us realize, oh yeah, there's this person I knew in high school 20, 30 years ago, and we lost touch. And then you can remember why you lost touch.
Yeah, right. It could be that you hated that person and you don't really want to talk to them.
Right.
Right.
Yes, I remember you. You're the one that threw me in the locker and did all that nasty stuff to me. What would ever make you think I would want to be your friend?
Yeah, why on earth?
No, I am not joining your MLM. Piss
Right.
off.
Yeah, right. Go away. So.
But to that, there is a level of addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's like staring at an accident or whatever. It can be very difficult to put it down. Oh, where's this train wreck gonna go? It's the little dopamine hit. So I think that's a serious challenge.
Yep. So we've also got one from Rob on Twitter. I left Facebook about 6 years ago. Was hard at first, and he says he deleted all the apps. He says, but I live it now. I don't know if he just means live or love it, because that could go either way.
He loves it. He loves it.
Right. It says it's a great freedom, which kind of speaks to exactly what you were just talking about, right? To feel like you're now free by not being part of that particular social network sort of makes you feel like it is some kind of an addiction, right?
So I will say my daughter and I went with her venture crew to Maine last summer. I was looking at pictures earlier today. It was a canoe trip, and the trip on the water, I think we were on the water 5 or 6 days. But a great deal of the time, even when we were not on the water, we were in Maine, and the connectivity was terrible. And the first day we were on the water, my canoe ended up capsizing because we were trying to rescue somebody else who made a dumbass move and cascade failure. It was pretty hilarious. And the watertight box that I had my iPhone 6 in, the watertight box is a fantastic device.
Mm-hmm.
But what I realized I forgot was the little rubber gasket that makes it a watertight box. So you know what it was, Jason? Without that gasket,
it was just a box.
It's just a box, right? How waterproof is the iPhone 6?
iPhone 6 doesn't know how to swim.
No.
Yeah, the iPhone 6, its waterproof is 0. If you sneeze on it, it can kill it.
Yeah.
So my iPhone 6 ended up in an inch or two of water in the box that should have been watertight.
In the watertight, watertight box.
As my old man would say, it was deader than Kelsey's nuts. So even once we got back on land, I didn't have a smartphone that had an internet connection. And I'll tell you, after you get past the initial shakes, it's like withdrawal.
Right.
It's glorious.
Initial shakes. That's funny.
It's glorious. I'm like, I don't care. And you're interacting with the people that you're with, and you're just enjoying nature, and you're just like, you don't know what kind of shit show's going on, like what people are fighting about, what's going on, and you realize you don't care.
But they're fighting. They're fighting about something.
Someone's on the internet, they're posting something, and it's wrong. I have to respond.
Somebody on the internet is wrong.
And I'm as guilty as anybody, because I'm sometimes a troublemaker.
No, not you. You can't be a troublemaker.
I'm sometimes a troublemaker.
Okay. So, having only received a handful of responses to the Twitter post and 0 responses to the Facebook post, because, Facebook... Irony is right. Because I guess when you ask people on Facebook if they've left Facebook, they're not going to answer because, unless they're lying to you, which that wouldn't happen on Facebook, right? So I went to, we have this internal mailing list at Red Hat, which I'm not going to name on the air because I don't know if that's like a common knowledge thing, but whatever.
It's in the Open Organization, which is a published book. It's called Memo List.
Okay. So I went to Memo List, which basically is a method for any Red Hatter to reach out to literally every other Red Hatter who hasn't muted or removed themselves from Memo List. Can you remove yourself from Memo List? I'm sure someone has.
You can unsubscribe to it, but everybody's subscribed by default, and it's recommended that you don't unsubscribe, just because.
So this is like if you were
I
working
filter
at any...
it to its own... I filter it to its own folder.
If you were working at any other organization, this would be the way that the boss uses to reach out to you, except this is open to every employee, so we can all reach out to each other too. So I decided to use that power and ask the folks at Red Hat, literally everyone at Red Hat, if they're on Facebook, or if they left it, and what they did to, what has replaced it in their life, or, whatever... what do they do now that they're not there? Or, if they had concerns or whatever. And, as any sort of a thread like that might go, I got lots of responses. So many that I couldn't get through them all before the show. I posted like 3 o'clock this afternoon because I didn't think of it earlier. And it's now 7 o'clock, and I got 60-something responses already. And I think it's still going.
I'm going to check.
So,
last response was at 6:30.
Okay. So we'll go through.
An hour ago.
We'll go through a couple of the high points because one, I promised everybody I wouldn't share any names because it's a privacy thing, and if they don't want to be on Facebook, it's probably because of a privacy thing. So I didn't want to betray that privacy by sharing anybody's names. So I'm just going to go through a couple of the high points that we got out of it. There were some real gems in there that I really wanted to sort of pick through and quote, but I just didn't have time to get through all of it. So a couple of the trends that I saw were things like, I left Facebook because I got tired of the BS. And that's exactly kind of the way I'm feeling at the moment. I'm really sick of just the way conversations unfold on Facebook. You can post literally anything, I would think. Just about anything. And somebody will disagree with you. And then it's like it's their job to prove why you're wrong. Why it is that you're like a terrible human being because you think the thing that you think, right? And especially now with all of these things that have us polarized, whether it's the global pandemic, whether it's the police brutality thing, whether it's the Black Lives Matters thing, whether it's the election coming up at the end of the year, everyone has an opinion, and if you share your opinion, you're immediately attacked for it. I don't care which side you're on, how moderate or progressive or liberal or conservative you are. Whatever you post, somebody attacks you for it. Who wants to live that way?
But that's nothing new on Facebook. It's been that way for literal years, ever since I started using it.
It feels worse now. I think it feels worse now. It was always a thing that I could tune out, and I could do the thing that I want to do on Facebook, which is basically keep in touch with people that I want to actually keep in touch with. I don't feel like I can even do that anymore. I mean, I could, but you have to wade through all this crap to do it. So, that leads into the next big thing. There were several people that said this, and they say they actually left Facebook for mental health reasons. They felt that all it did was sort of lower their mood, similar to what you were describing, Mark, where, you go on Facebook, you're there to, either chat with somebody or, just catch up, and you get sucked into all these arguments or whatever, and it literally makes you feel worse about yourself.
Right. My wife was telling me earlier this week, she was ranting and she's like, I finally had to unfriend this one person because she's just an idiot. I can't believe the crap she posts. And I'm not going to go into any details, but yeah, I mean, she was finally, she doesn't have a large friends list, right?
Yeah.
People act like, oh, I have this giant friends list and I get all these likes and shares and stuff. Like it's actually some form of currency that actually helps.
Yeah. Well,
she's made fun of me a bit because I have such a big friends list, but I have such a disparate group of friends when it comes to positions that topic that you post, if you post anything that's the slightest bit controversial, I'll have multiple slants of friends coming in and they start beating each other up over it. And she's like, I can't believe the junk that happens. That's why I don't have that many friends on this thing.
Right. So you mentioned...
just describe my family.
You mentioned friends are like currency, and that's actually worth mentioning. And this didn't come up in any of the conversations, but if you're any kind of a... I'm trying to think of the best way to describe it, because there's like all these funny words that go along with this that people laugh about. If you're an influencer, is probably the best word I can come up with. Okay, right, exactly. You're
I hate that word.
Right, so it's the roots of that are in a valid thing, though, right? If you have a huge social media following, then advertisers or companies will look to you as a way to get their message out. Okay, so like with my Jeep stuff, right? I have a YouTube channel. I've got 1,500 followers. Okay? After I crested about 1,000, small companies started reaching out to me to review products. And they literally send me stuff for free, and I install it on my Jeep, or I give them an honest opinion of it, or whatever, and off it goes. Well, if you've got like 50,000, like real companies, real big companies start coming to you to try to spread whatever it is they want to spread, whether it's product placement or whether, whatever. So having a huge following on things like Instagram or Facebook in some cases will literally get you money or stuff, right? So, there is that. But that's really not this particular discussion. However, you could say that it leads into some of the problems with social media, in that all of a sudden this person that you're friends with, because you want to chat with them or whatever, are now a shill for a company.
Right? A shill.
So, one person even responded that they have an app that they use to track their mental health, their mental well-being. I didn't know such apps existed. I'm actually very curious about how this works. He gave me a URL called moodscope.com. But he said that he's been tracking his mental well-being since before he had left Facebook, and now that he's gone, he sees an improvement. So again, I don't know anything about this app or how it works, or whether it's like hokey crap or whatever. But to them, it's probably like, this is legitimate. This shows me a result, right?
You have to use it in coordination with a healing crystal or something.
Yeah, right. No, you have to put an implant in your brain, right? And then you scan it every so often.
So little note about the overlaid chat.
Yeah, it's wrong. I know, it's like broken.
It seems to like the last few lines just don't seem to be like, it seems to be. It caches like 5 or 6 lines.
So
and
if we want to get into the
scrolled up at some point too.
If we want to get into the technicalities of why, it's because the window is too little, and I didn't realize that. So it's cut off at the bottom. So the newest chats aren't showing until they scroll upward.
Oh,
That's
okay.
why.
Some influencer this guy is.
So I need to
Doesn't even
fix
have
that
any
for the next
control.
show, okay?
Well, now we know. Like we were talking to Josh in the chat before. We've
Yeah.
got some new tech tonight. We're
Yeah.
allowed to be imperfect, but
Yeah,
this is
so
like troubleshooting in production.
yeah, so
Yeah,
next time I'll put it down the side of the screen or something so that there's more room for it. That should fix it.
Yes, Nate is using OBS for this, Josh.
Yes, it's OBS. Which bringing the chat window from YouTube into OBS is not nearly as easy as if we were doing this on Twitch. So we're totally switching platforms now.
Yeah, and we're using we're conferencing using Zoom, even though that's making Mason cry. So the goal is to try Jitsi at some point.
Maybe next time. We'll see. With
Oh, awesome! Another app that'll fail on my machine.
But at least it's free and open source.
Jitsi doesn't work for you,
I
Jason?
like no. I
Nothing
like Jitsi.
works.
I haven't used Jitsi in probably a decade, but
It's
Well,
gotten better.
It's different than you're thinking. You're
I
thinking of that
actually
little.
like it.
You're thinking of that little Java client that we used to use to connect to OpenUC, right?
yeah, well, I used it then too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's been a long time since I used Jitsi.
But yeah, there's like nice full-on Jitsi video conferencing. It's very comparable to Zoom, I would say, except it's browser-based, which means you'll have trouble with it.
I like it better than I actually like it better than the big three that we use at Red Hat. I like it better than BlueJeans. I like it better than GChat, and I like it better than Zoom.
Do you have to do that every time you say GChat? Is that like a thing,
Well, it's
like a
actually
reflex?
Google Meet.
Yeah.
Actually, I like Meet. If it wasn't Google, God. Oh.
It wasn't Google.
Functionally, it works better than BlueJeans, but I just don't like Google as a company.
Yeah.
And I realize that's ironic because I'm on the YouTube with this right now.
Right. Well, like I said, we'll move to Twitch. Then it's owned by
I'll stick
Amazon.
with Zoom.
Oh, so you can't escape the assholes. Is I guess the problem.
So there was also lots of talk about feeling like Facebook is basically an echo chamber, or social bubble is another word that was used to describe it. Which leads into another thread that I saw more than one person say. They referred to it as like a gamification, right? Facebook is almost like a game that you interact with. It's not just social anymore. And they say that it's tilted in such a way that it makes you feel terrible. But that because you feel terrible, you keep coming back to see if it gets better. Which is like a really weird mental game, don't you think? Now, I don't know how much truth there is to that. Again, it was just a comment, a response that I got to the thread that I posted. And I don't know if there's some study somewhere that says that this is true. But my own experience with Facebook makes me feel like it could be true. Because, just like you were saying, you log in there and you're just like inundated with garbage, with things that feel terrible. Right? I don't know. Do you get that feeling, Mark? You look like you're deep in thought.
I was looking at. I totally wasn't paying attention to your question, and you got me. I apologize.
I got Mark.
Because one of the responses from Memo List actually, a sentence stuck with me, and I wanted to find it again.
Okay.
And the sentence is, I think that 30 years from now, social media will be looked on as one of the most dangerous things that has been perpetrated to human society.
Wow.
And he goes into a whole explanation as to why.
I didn't see that one.
You know, it's funny though, right? Because the assumption has always been that, if information is free, if communication is free, then it will lead to harmony and goodness. But it turns out that humans are sometimes shitbags. And when they're able to communicate freely with each other, they're not joining hands and singing Kumbaya.
Yeah.
They're engaging in their tribal behaviors and their us versus them behaviors, where suddenly politics is not something that is intelligent people can disagree how to solve complex problems. Instead, it's the friggin' Philadelphia Eagles versus the New York Giants.
Yep.
And the guy wearing the other uniform sucks.
Yeah.
and is a
Doesn't
terrible
matter.
person.
Doesn't matter what they say or think. They are the devil because they're not on your team.
And some of us who've been on the internet for a really long time could see some of this coming 20, 30 years ago because of the nature of the anonymous communication the internet gives people,
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
I mean, back in the
And
BBS days, back in the old like FidoNets and whatever, same thing. Flame war. The term flame war has been
flame
around
war,
probably longer than I have been around. I don't know when it was coined, but it was certainly in existence when I sat down at my first computer.
So I graduated Rutgers in 1990. So in the mid 80s was the first exposure I had to Usenet on uh, on the machines there that were running some sort of Unix.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, flame war was definitely a thing.
Yeah.
The thing is, the community was a lot more obsessed with netiquette and proper behavior and better at self-policing.
Yeah.
So even when people flamed each other, that was looked upon as terrible behavior and not the norm.
Yeah, I'd been part of communities before Facebook that were very self-policing. It was, you would, if somebody was being an ass, people would just ignore them. They weren't the loudest one in the room anymore. People ignored them. They didn't respond to their threads. They didn't engage with that person, and eventually that person either went away or changed their tone. Now it seems like the opposite. Now don't choke on your
bourbon.
Don't choke on your bourbon.
Almost used the wrong tube.
Yeah.
Trying to sterilize the lungs.
That's not how that works, man.
No.
Doesn't work that way.
Is that like drinking decongestant?
You mean like drinking disinfectant?
Oh, jeez. Yeah, disinfectant, not decongestant. Oh, my word.
You're supposed to drink decongestant, I think. That's how that works. All right. So, and then, aside from the mental health issues and the general badness of Facebook, we come back to the good old friend privacy. A lot of folks cited privacy as the reason that they left Facebook. I got more than one person responded simply saying that the privacy battle is dead, which is similar to the conversation we had with Charles a couple weeks ago when we were talking about contact tracing. That basically that battle is lost. And I don't know. I don't know where I stand on that anymore. I feel like it's still a fight worth fighting, but everybody has our data. Even things we haven't opted into.
Yeah.
Like even things we didn't opt into. I mean, who has a credit report with Equifax? Oh, that's right. Everybody.
Touche, Madam Blueberry.
Who lost their credit report when Equifax got breached? Oh yeah, everybody. I don't know if it was everybody, but it was a lot. So yeah, I don't know if that's even worth. Jason, you weren't on the night we were talking to Charles about it. How do you feel about that? I know you're big on privacy, and that's one of the reasons you have not been on Facebook for all these years.
How do I feel about the privacy in general, or just the contact tracing?
The battle. The battle for our privacy. Do you think it's lost? Do you think it's wasted effort?
I think doing the minimum or doing like just the easy stuff is enough to screw up the algorithms. I mean, there's pros and cons to it. I mean, I can't stand getting a bunch of ads about crap I have no interest in, but I don't mind getting ads about things that I actually might be interested in.
Right.
I mean, I think that's a benefit.
Yeah, right. Instead of being inundated with crap, right?
Using it to track me all over the place for nefarious means, yeah, that sucks.
Well, I mean, define nefarious, though.
To things. What's that?
Like, define nefarious, though. I think everybody has their own description of what's nefarious,
I
right?
guess. I mean, so nefarious, I mean, take Facebook, for instance. I mean, tracking my habits and using that data to show things that are going to get me riled up and inject crap into my whatever the hell it's called, your wall or your stream or whatever that is.
Yep.
I mean, that to me is ridiculous and nefarious. Twitter does that a little bit, but there's ways to sort of turn it off. There was a really good post by Ian Coldwater a while back on a bunch of tags that you can throw into the filter, and it kind of shuts most of that stuff off. I don't know. Reddit's driving me nuts these days because I've had a Reddit account forever, and whenever I Google search something now, if it shows up with a Reddit post, I start getting Reddit messages on my phone in whatever the subreddit is. Even though I'm not subscribed to it, and and I haven't taken the time. I looked briefly trying to figure out how to turn it off, and I probably need to spend more time with it. But those sorts of things are a little annoying. I think where it gets more nefarious is when it starts seeping into, like when healthcare gets involved or when insurance gets involved and that sort of stuff. And that's a little bit on the fringe at the moment, but it's starting to become more of a reality, where, take employers, for instance. When I sign up, when I fill out a job application now, it's asking me for, what's your Facebook account? What's your Twitter? What's your, and my answer is go to hell.
Yeah, you can't have that. I haven't actually seen that on a job application, but I've heard of it. Have you actually seen it, like in person?
Yeah.
Now
I'm in the tech world, so
right.
It's slightly different. I mean, I don't really have, if you want to go over my Twitter, I'm going to stand by what I have on Twitter. That's just who I am.
You kind of have to. It's public.
Well, right, but
you can't be like astonished. Wow, how did you read that? Well, it's public on Twitter.
I've had stuff come up in conversations in like interviews of things I've posted here or there, and for the most part it's been positive. It's oh, I noticed you posted about this stuff, or I noticed on your LinkedIn that there's this, or we read your blog, or we watched Iron Sysadmin, or whatever, and that's fine. But I mean, it's a huge red flag to me the moment a company's like, oh, well, you were posting things about this. Like, okay, that's cool. This interview's over. I don't need to work here. So that sort of nefarious tracking type stuff drives me nuts.
I mean, as an employer, though, right? I have to play devil's advocate, and I have to just try to explore the other side of this. As an employer, you're taking a bet hiring somebody. Right? Is this person going to be a decent individual? Are they going to steal all our stuff and walk out the door? Right? Are they going to walk in and trash our network and leave? Are they going to show up to work? Are they going to show up to work sober? Right? And if you're going to share things publicly about, oh, I was out drinking last night or whatever, and it's literally public. Now, if they're digging around Facebook trying to find information about you when they don't have any link to you, that's a little different, I think. But if like every weekend you were on Twitter talking about how you're having these benders and whatever, and you barely got to work in the morning, that's effectively public information. So can you really slight them for looking for that?
So if I am on Twitter and I am bad mouthing the company that I work for, or I am representing the company by saying who I work for, and then posting all sorts of whatever racist crap, or that I was out smoking weed, or I was on a bender for 3 days or whatever, maybe I can see where the company might be, a little bit concerned.
Yeah.
I don't mention who I work for ever. I never talk. I may bitch about work on Twitter, but I will never name people, and I will never name where I'm working. And I don't think I ever have.
I don't know that you've ever even divulged your latest position on this show.
No.
And we were here when you got hired.
Right. Now the problem is that LinkedIn has that information, and anybody who's even remotely, passably good at OSINT can easily figure out where I work and whatever. And so even then I'm somewhat careful about what I say. But let's go back 10 years. 10 years ago when this stuff didn't exist.
Yeah.
Or 15 years ago when this didn't exist. How did companies ever hire people? How did they ever get somebody through the door who wasn't gonna,
I don't know,
have a bender or smoke weed?
I can tell you some stories about some
their systems.
I can tell you some stories about some terrible employees I've worked with.
I've had terrible employees before, and I'm going to continue to have terrible employees.
Mm-hmm.
We had a guy who came through, and his interview was amazing. He knew everything about Linux. He knew all the different buzzwords. He knew all the technology we're using. It was absolutely amazing. We were like, wow, we really have to hire this guy. We hired him. He starts his first day. Dude can't turn on his computer. Nowhere to lie. Cannot figure out how to turn on the computer. That's where it started, and it just snowballed from there.
Just went worse.
It was like, well, how the hell did you get through that interview? Because it's not like we were showing you things. Like, we were asking questions, and you were answering them. Do you have a twin brother who's smarter than you? Could you send him in, please? But I would love an earpiece.
Yeah, right. Secret mic and earpiece.
Maybe.
Bob, I really need this job. Can you tell me the answers through the earpiece?
I would love to see a study that compares, the quality of applicants and hires now, when you can go through their Twitter and their Facebook and everything else, compared to the same thing 20 years ago or 50 years ago. And I'm willing to bet that there's no difference at all.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, like I said,
Twitter, have a ball, but
some employers don't even check, as far as I know.
Yeah, I mean, most haven't. I mean, most of the stuff I get is individual people at the company who are interested, and then bring stuff up like, oh, I read this on your blog, let's talk about it. Like, okay, cool. Or I follow you on Twitter. I didn't realize you were the same person. I'm like, yeah, that's me.
You're that popular, huh?
No, not really.
No.
It's happened, but it's pretty small circles.
Yeah.
Absolutely one thing that I'll almost rant about, because I don't remember it ever being this way before, is there is a chilling effect now where if you post something controversial and it goes against, the conventional wisdom, if it goes against what the popular opinion of the day is, there is suddenly an internet mob trying to get you fired, blacklisted, removed from your whatever, ruin your life. That bothers me. And I have more than once thought, should I just nuke my entire Facebook account from orbit just in case someone goes back in time and I posted something they don't like now that I posted 5, 8, 10 years ago?
That really does happen frequently.
It does. And to be perfectly frank, my personal politics and whatnot tend to lean conservative, which nowadays I kind of even hesitate to admit that.
It's not very popular, is it?
No. I feel like I have to disclaim, did not vote for Trump last election. I voted for Johnson.
No, you don't have to explain. Not on this show, not to us.
Yeah. So here's something. My wonderful middle daughter, she's 23 years old now. I think she's 23. Whatever. Fuck it. She's 23 now. She just got her master's degree. She's got this wonderful job that she's starting next week. And she posted on her Facebook page that she was going to be attending a rally at Kutztown, a solidarity rally. And my wife and I told her, you're an adult, you need to make your own decisions. Be careful, because if you end up in some sort of situation, your employer might see it, and you can risk your job. Now, fortunately, everything is very peaceful, and everything went well, and she didn't end, there was no conflict with authorities or whatever. And so it was fine. But quite frankly, the idea that someone could post something, even if it's terrible, it's maybe this person has a terrible opinion, but does that mean that their life should be ruined because they posted one bad thing on social media?
It's not just that, but these posts lose context over time. So look at some of these people that have just been completely ruined over photos that was taken of them in the 50s or 60s. Right. When times were different. They did terrible things then, but they were terrible things that were socially acceptable.
Right. There needs to be temper, and people change over time. Right. I'm okay with System D. I know I'm going to lose all sorts of followers.
Right.
And people are going to be up in arms.
Right.
But it works.
8 years ago, I hated it.
I like SysV as well. I mean, I think they're both decent. There are things that I don't like about each, so it's whatever.
Both of them have helped me feed my family.
There you go.
So I mean, the idea of somebody losing their job. I mean, it depends on what it is, right? So, for
But
instance,
should it?
the whole bird watcher, dog, woman calling
yeah.
the police thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, she should absolutely be shamed, I think. But to lose her job over it, I don't know, right? Like, I think that's going a little bit far.
Yeah,
think
I
that
agree.
might be overboard.
She overreacted to that thing, to the whole situation, the whole calling the cops thing, whatever. That was terrible. But you're right. It's like, how far is too far? Like, does everyone need to be lynched over every little mistake they make?
And
Right,
it's,
and
it's
there's
super
there's
sensitive
actually
right now.
Mhm.
there's
I'm sorry, Jason. Go ahead.
sorry there's actually good psychological evidence that what she did wasn't really and had anything to do with her being racist, but
Mhm.
it had more to do with what the norms are today and what's going on in the world. So, and that's not to excuse her, right? Like, I don't think there is an excuse for that, but
Yeah.
but should that mean that she loses her job? I don't know. That's a tough one. Now, if she was marching down the street in a Klan outfit and trying
Toting
to
a
burn
swastika
people and
flag.
hang them from trees, like, yeah, by all means, like,
Yeah.
fire her. But I don't know, and it's hard. It's hard, and this stuff didn't exist 15, 20 years ago. So
Mhm.
these are the growing pains we go through with new technology.
Yeah, and what I'm seeing today, and literally, I can pull up posts from today on Facebook where it's almost like this ongoing purity test where people are trying to determine if you're thinking properly,
Mhm.
and if you're not, you're in trouble. It's actually kind of chilling to me. And if anything finally drives me from social media, it's going to be that. The fact that if I put the wrong opinion out there, suddenly I'm going to have to be defending my opinion, even if you don't like it, even if it goes against what the general popular opinion is,
Right.
because I either didn't express it nuanced enough or because I don't think it's that black and white in terms of truth, then
That
that
right
frightens
there.
me.
That right there is the crux of the whole thing. None of these issues are black and white. And I don't mean that as a racial thing. I mean, like, as a comparative thing.
Binary.
None of these things are binary. None of them are 100% true on one side or the other, right? Like, take the response to COVID, right? A lot of people are very upset with the way this country has dealt with COVID. I feel like we were hit with a thing that was very unexpected. No one really knew what to do, so they did what they thought was best.
It's
Right?
complicated.
It's
Right.
complicated. The whole thing is complicated. Could we have done better? Absolutely. Could we have done worse? Oh, heck yeah. Right?
Well, don't worry, we're getting a do-over, so we'll see what happens.
We're getting a do-over,
We're still
okay.
trying to figure out how, and I can tell you my take. I'm still going to play pretty conservative.
Right.
You know,
Right. And the
I'm
thing
not
is,
rushing out to be in public.
the thing is, right? If you choose to not play conservative, all of a sudden people are judging you, saying that you're a problem. You're going to kill people, right? When in reality, the whole freaking game is changing from day to day. Like, what we know about the virus is changing day to day. Maybe not day to day, but it's changing rapidly and frequently. Okay? So, the things that we thought about it in January are different now. So, how we were dealing with it in January is different than how we're dealing with it now. And the whole thing, it's like, it's a moving target. There's a lot of gray area. There's a lot of like, well, maybe this didn't do a damn thing. Maybe it did. Who was right in that matter, right? If they come out and go like, those masks we asked you to wear, those were completely useless, but thank you for wearing them anyway, then all of a sudden you're going to have people that are like, I told you the masks were stupid, right? So, I don't know. The whole thing is gray. The whole thing is difficult to wrap your hands around, which is what we should be.
Right. But again, because if you're going to engage on social media, I think now more than ever it can be super risky. And so if you need a compelling argument to step back, to me that's what'll get me off of it.
Yeah.
I've been using social media for a couple of reasons. One of my hobbies is scouting. I'm an assistant scoutmaster. And taking pictures of the scouts doing their activities and posting them on the Facebook is something parents have gotten used to seeing from me. Well, my
Mm-hmm.
son ages out this year, and my daughter's out of venturing too because she aged out. So I'm not gonna have kids in there anymore, and I might stick on as an adult leader for a little while longer, but maybe I'm just gonna ease off on the pictures now. Uh, I've got family members, but honestly, between group texting and everything else, maybe Facebook is done. The risk reward. We talked about signal to noise ratio.
Yeah.
Let's talk about risk versus reward. What is Facebook? What am I getting out of it?
So that's actually a good segue, right? So there's two other points I wanted to cover, but your point is valid. What are you getting out of it? So for me, one of the things I get out of it is I have an outlet to share this show. I have an outlet to share my YouTube channel, right? It's almost like an advertising platform at that point.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get much personally out of it anymore. There's a couple people that I don't get to see frequently that I could probably find other avenues to communicate with, that I would lose contact with if I don't find another way, if I were to leave Facebook. But I would lose those literally possible revenue streams or advertising streams for those things that I do. And those aren't things that I that I tout as me. They're touted as like pages that represent those things, right? And that's a whole other angle. So I almost feel like I'm stuck there, or I lose, a possible avenue for bringing people into the things that I create, right? And there's a few other people that responded that said that exact same thing. One person literally said, "I'll never leave Facebook because it's the way that I keep track of all these people that I want to stay in touch with." Right?
Right.
Several people said, "I hate it, but I'll always be there because of that reason."
Right. So that's where that's where engaging in it in a careful manner is probably important. So that comes down to, in theory, everything I've ever posted on Facebook is there. How do I get rid of the stuff that I might not want people to ever see that I wrote? I don't think I can.
You can probably go back and delete them, but how would you do that?
Very slowly and one at a time.
Yeah.
Like, I would love a setting that says but what I love a setting that says purge any content older than a year. I'd love a setting that says lock down any content, make it non-viewable by anybody but me older than a year.
Wasn't there something that did that?
I don't know.
Was it?
I'm looking now.
This all rings a bell. Like there was a thing where you could age out posts. Maybe it wasn't on
I'm-
Facebook. It might have been something else.
'Cause that
No,
would be-
somebody was talking about doing it with Twitter. They would age out all their posts that were older than a year or something. I think.
Yeah.
So, at any rate, this leads me to the last point I wanted to touch on, and I was really hoping to get some jewel out of the Red Hat community when I sent that email, and that is alternatives. What I really wanted someone to say was, here's an open source alternative that's privacy aware, maybe that you can host yourself, maybe that's decentralized, and there's actually people there that you might want to converse with. Unfortunately, nobody came back and said that. Nobody has that. There's projects that exist. There's lots of them. I ran one for a little while. The problem is no one's there. There's no one else to talk to other than yourself and a couple other nerds that wanted to check out this cool new technology. And then they're gone because they go back to where the people are, right? So the other alternatives... Sorry, what?
Is Mastodon still kicking around?
Mastodon's still kicking around, and that's probably the only one that got a decent amount of following at some point. But even that, it's not enough.
What was that? What was the crazy Facebook one that you were running for a while? I can't even remember the name of it.
You mean Diaspora?
Yeah, Diaspora.
Yeah, that was
dead
fun,
now?
and that had promise. I liked that. I liked that platform. I liked the idea. It was decentralized. You could run it yourself. You could run it for other people, for people that didn't know how to run it themselves, because it wasn't easy to run. It was a big Ruby on Rails app. It was really kind of a bear. But yeah, so things that people did say they've moved to are things like Instagram, Twitter, and a few people actually liked Google+, believe it or not. But now that's gone. Thank you, Google. They liked it. The reasoning I always got, or the reason I got from the few people that mentioned it, was that it was easier to filter out what you didn't want to see, and you could see what you did want to see, because Google Plus was just designed that way. Unfortunately, it's gone now. And then the other options are chat platforms instead of social platforms. Things like Slack and Discord, and WhatsApp is a chat application, isn't it? It's not really a social network.
It's more of an instant messaging app, I thought. It's not. I mean,
Okay.
Slack and Discord are
They're kind of a
closer
different
to
thing.
IRC than anything, and,
Yeah.
and WhatsApp is like AOL Instant Messenger.
So personally, I don't know. I know, Mark, you use Discord for some things. Jason, I don't know if you have or not, but I found it to be actually pretty pleasant. I'm actually in a couple Discord servers now. It seems a little more open than Slack is, a little less for pay and corporate maybe than Slack is, and I kind of like it. I kind of like the way it's set up.
I'm not sure what the origins are. I mean, it felt like it was built for gamers.
It is. It's built for
and
gamers.
That's sort of why it feels. I think it feels the way it does. I would be happy to run Discord. I think I'm on more Discord. I don't even know what to call them. I'm in more Discord channels than I am in Slack, but Slack is where the important stuff is at the moment. So I can't, and I hate running 52 apps. So, Discord is there, and I jump in like once a month, and I look and see what's going on, and then I go back to Slack.
Always back to the thing you know, right?
Well, again, that's where all of the channels that I follow the most are located.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same.
If they were to move to Discord, I'd be on Discord in a heartbeat.
It's the same problem as Facebook, right? You go where all the people are.
Yeah, I mean, so I can't remember what the name of it was. I mean, back in the day when we had
I want to
50
go where the
different-
people are. Da, 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 da.
it was just a matter of time before I
Sorry,
started singing.
you
It
threw the
really
hook in the
is.
water.
So
It really
back in
is.
the day when there were 100 different instant messaging apps, there was an aggregator app, and I can't remember what the name of it was, but you could go in and put all of your. I mean, it ran locally on your machine. It wasn't
Mhm.
cloud run or whatever. You put all your information in, and it aggregated everything all together.
Yeah, there have been a few of
And-
those actually.
Yeah, and it kept the conversation separate, but of course it made sense because it was between two people or between a couple people, and it was on that platform. But that was great. I could run one app and hit everything. Now with all the different apps that are out there, I just have to choose one, and Slack happens to be the default one right now.
He's part of their world. Yes, very good.
That sounds like a Disney thing.
It
is.
is. It's totally a
Little
Disney
Mermaid.
thing.
So, Little Mermaid was one of my favorite early Disney movies. Bunch of college dudes enthralled by it. Don't judge us.
It's because of the seashells.
Too late.
No doubt.
The seashells. How do you use the seashells?
He doesn't know how to use the seashells. All right. They need a sequel
Oh,
just so we can figure it.
I mean, of course you don't know how to use the seashells.
Yeah.
So at any rate, that's pretty much the gist of everything that I got out. I mean, there's probably a much deeper rabbit hole to go into there, but we've already been going at this for an hour, so.
Yeah, I mean, I don't use Facebook, and I get asked about it all the time by family because
Why aren't you on Facebook?
well, that's where they.
I could have
post
invited
everything
you
that's
if you were
going
on Facebook.
Right, exactly. It's something will happen, and why weren't you there? I'm like, because nobody told me. When we posted on Facebook, I've not been on Facebook ever, and you know this.
Well, you've been there
So-
twice.
Yeah, you
Well,
were there
right, but-
twice.
Right,
8 years ago.
right. But I think it predates any of my family being on Facebook. So
Yeah.
as far as they're concerned, I was never on it, and
Valid.
that seems to be the go-to platform for posting when things are going on. And
It is because it's stupid easy.
I can't be bothered. I'm sorry. If it's not important enough to pick up a phone or send me a text message, then I don't need to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it is.
To be honest, if I were to completely nuke my Facebook account, basically what would happen is whenever we got invited to a family gathering, my wife would tell me.
Which is the way they did it in the good old days.
Yeah, right.
I'm here drinking my beer in my easy chair. Archie! We've got a thing this weekend at my sister's.
Now,
Edith, I don't want to go there.
all the people are on the stream are cringing at how much you just crackled throughout all the audio.
Oh, did I?
I can see it. I can see it peaking, and it'll be bam, bam, right up into the
Oh,
red.
it's Archie and Edith. Hey, get me a beer, woman.
My wife is on Facebook, so she gets the notices once in a while.
Yeah.
And again, like she doesn't really pay attention either, so we never get invited to places, which is perfectly fine. My kids are on Facebook, I think purely to shitpost and piss off my brother. Which
is that
really, really good at?
Is that what your son's doing? Because I've seen him posting some real
yes,
and yes, I see your brother baiting in every time.
Yes. They came up. It was this week. It was not yesterday. I think it was Tuesday. They came upstairs, absolutely victorious because they finally got him to back down. It was a big day.
He was just tired.
Okay. So it makes me feel better for your children's sanity knowing that they had a goal, and it's not that they because some of the stuff your older son was posting was just like complete, I don't know, some of it seemed a bit wacky.
Yeah, some of it probably was pretty wacky.
Well, it was like the sort of stuff that was like just believable enough, but just a little too far. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because it's the whole conspiracy thing, So some of it was used as baiting. Some of it was, he's just fascinated by the conspiracy theories.
Yeah.
So whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, my youngest has taken himself off of Facebook and Twitter a number of times in the past month, purely for mental health.
Yeah.
He'll come in and say like, I had to put it down because I was losing my mind.
It doesn't surprise me from him.
It's
put it down.
He's a little more of he's a little more of a thoughtful kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's weird where it's spreading though. So he'll get himself off of Facebook and Twitter, and then the next thing I know, he's freaking out because somebody's posting garbage on Snapchat.
Right.
So
he just walks right back into it.
Right. And what it is it's in his instance, I think, minus the stuff that's clearly baiting. I mean, some of it is they're his friends and they're posting things, and he knows that, he knows that it's absolutely 100% wrong, right? Like, and dangerous. Not just that they have a bad opinion, but it's like, life and death danger wrong, and he's caring enough that he's like pissed off that they would be posting and believing this stuff. He's like, I don't even know what to do with these people. It's like, you can't. You have to walk away. Like, people are going to run their own lives, and
none of us
find
do.
A lot of these people that are just going to drive themselves into the wall over and over again.
There were morons before social media, but they had much smaller platforms.
Yeah, that they did.
Yeah, I believe they called them soapboxes. Literal
soap.
It was a literally smaller platform because it was only like 8 by 12.
Or they
if you did it right,
they
you could turn it
mimeographed
into a little car and race it.
Their edicts.
Yeah. There he goes again. All right, so I think that about covers the Facebook thing, folks. If anybody, here he goes. If anybody out there has an alternative that fits the description that I just gave, like an actual privacy-aware social network that maybe you can run on your own, maybe that's open source, I'd love to hear about it. So if you want to just hit us up, maybe not on Facebook, but on Twitter or however, you can comment on this video if you want to, and just let us know, like, is there a thing out there that people are actually using? Is there something that has enough popularity that it might actually be able to dethrone the Face King? Because I would love the Face King. I'd love to hear it. So, and with that, I think we're gonna go take a little break, and then we'll be back with the news. Well, no, not the news. We'll be back to chat. Because that's not what we've been doing this whole time. We've totally been covering a topic, right?
Push the purple button.
No, there's no more purple button. There's just this thing. Here, watch. News, ops, and a little bit of paranoia. Welcome to the Iron Sysadmin Podcast. News, ops, and a little bit of paranoia. Welcome to the Iron Sysadmin Podcast. News, ops, and a little bit of paranoia. Welcome to the Iron Sysadmin Podcast. News, ops, and a little bit of paranoia. Welcome to the Iron Sysadmin Podcast. News, ops, and a little bit of paranoia. Welcome to the Iron Sysadmin Podcast. News, ops, and a little bit of paranoia. Welcome to the Iron Sysadmin Podcast. News, ops, and a little bit of paranoia. Welcome to the Iron Sysadmin Podcast. News, ops, and a little bit of paranoia. Welcome to the Iron Sysadmin Podcast. And we're back, folks. Thanks for hanging in there. I saw
We're
Josh
now-
had to drop off,
Yeah.
but
But we're part of your world.
he's
again.
already singing again. Man. All right, so I think I can fix this this chat thing, but I have to move around the OBS window. Sorry about this, folks. So
He
now,
likes big chats and he cannot lie.
now I'm there, and the chat is slightly over me, but I don't really care. Okay, so we're back. Yay. And oh, we have a review. I forgot to tell you that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and go over our usual patrons in the announcements, and then we actually have a review to read. I'm so happy. Okay, so usual Patreon update. I think we gained a patron or two, but they're not in this list yet because they haven't been charged yet. That's how Patreon works. They don't put them in the list until they've actually paid something. So
Well, that actually seems fair to me.
it does, doesn't it? Because
No
if
money, no happy.
like theoretically you can become a patron and then cancel your patronage before
Renege.
before you're charged, right? And then you can actually get access to Patreon, patron only stuff. Not that we really have any for this show, but if you ever wanted to game the Patreon system and get access to content that you're only supposed to get as a patron, just go ahead and totally promise to give someone $100 a month and then cancel before they charge you. But you shouldn't do that. That's mean.
The wimpy maneuver. I would
Yeah.
gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today.
That's exactly what that is. All right, so our patrons as of the beginning of this month that have recently been charged or have paid us anything at all, our long-standing patron, 22532, who's been around since the freaking start. Thank you, buddy. I don't even know if you listen anymore. Maybe you've
Great
forgotten.
UID, buddy.
Maybe
Great
you
UID.
have. Yeah, right. Maybe you have forgotten that you're a patron, but you know what? I'll take it.
Patreon hasn't.
Yeah, Patreon hasn't. Andy, the captain of the SOG. Yep, Andy. You know Andy.
know
Charles, Dementor, Gimpy B, Jay, Jason, not this Jason, but the other Jason, John, Julius, Linux 666, who I think I saw in chat earlier. Hi, if you're there. Mark with a C, Mark with a K, and Ryan. So thank you, all of you.
Ryan, who plays the bard? Sergio.
Yes, that no, probably not that Ryan.
Probably not.
So those are our patrons. Thank you, folks, for being patrons. If you're curious how you can help the show out, just head on over to patreon.com/ironsysadmin, and anything you want to give is fine with us. I don't care if it's $1 or 20.
Hide behind the pile of dead bards.
Hide behind the pile of dead bards. Jason, you've seen that movie, haven't you? Yes.
I have seen that movie many a time.
We
I've
were
seen all the sequels too.
we were supposed to game. I haven't seen the sequels. There was a prequel. There was one before it that I could never find. Now you're going to look at your shelves that we can't see because of your background. We were supposed to game Tuesday, but somebody couldn't make it, so instead we all watched The Gamers: Darkness Rising, and
It was awesome.
It was fun. It was fun. Such a terrible movie, but hilarious. At least I think it's hilarious. There wasn't nearly as much laughing on the stream as I thought there was going to be.
I was laughing.
Yeah.
I'm not a laugh out loud person during a movie.
Oh, what's
Very
this?
often. I laughed a lot more than.
Hands of Fate? Is that what it says?
It looks like it's kind of fizzing out.
It's
because-
really not working well because of your virtual background with the Mac. Totally can't see that one. I have an idea. How about if your laptop is able to handle this, because I know you're having problems, even though you're running a virtual background, go to the notes and put links to where we can buy those movies.
There you go.
There we go. Maybe your video will catch up now. Dark Dungeons?
based on the Chick track. Oh my word.
And the Gamer's Hands of Fate. That's cool.
There was a Kickstarter for something, and this was some of the rewards.
That's pretty awesome. That's pretty. And by the way, your video didn't catch back up,
No,
so
so,
you've ruined it for the rest of the show.
yep, pretty much did.
Dark Dungeons.
Hey,
is
now you've got
such a...
Be careful. There's someone about to stab you behind you. She's hanging in a tree.
Yeah, well, you know.
I mean, doesn't seem like a bad way to go. Anyway, right. So I did mention that there's a review. We got from Ruslan. I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm sorry, dude. Or maybe not, dude. Person. I'm sorry, person. From Twitter. Thanks for the great episode, guys. Especially the post where effing Google blames C and C++. Yep, those engineers are stupid. Hope in future you'll discuss software development topics more. So I'm not a software developer. I don't think
a
any of
terrible
us
programmer.
are software developers.
Terrible.
Jason, you're like the closest thing we have to a software developer. In that I know you've had some programming classes.
Yeah, and I've written software. I apparently
programming
missed
courses.
whatever this episode was. What are we talking about here?
This was it last week or the week before? We were talking about
It was a few weeks ago.
Chrome.
It was a news article.
Yeah.
Chrome is hard because um, of flaws in C and C++ because
If I remember,
of memory.
if I
No,
remember
because when
the
you program in C and C++, you can't be an idiot. You got to understand how to manage memory.
the
It requires effort.
the article said something like all of the problems that we've had with Chrome can be blamed on bad code. I mean, remember that that statement? It's like, well, okay, yeah, I guess that's true. But they were talking about how Chrome is written in C or C++. I forget which one it was, and
Yeah,
that is to
it's-
blame for a lot of the vulnerabilities and problems we've had with Chrome because it doesn't do its own garbage collection, and you have to be a good programmer.
Right.
guess.
And languages like Java have never ever had a problem with garbage collection.
Right. So I guess I don't know this for certain, but it's what came up on the show. It's that Firefox is written in Rust, I think, which has a whole bunch of like bumpers around it to try to
Is
make
it?
sure that you don't have that problem.
Firefox has had memory management problems in the past too. So they all do. Like every app does. And
Yeah,
it's
no.
especially worse when the language that you're using ends up having a problem with the garbage collector. And
Yeah.
you end up, it's not even that you programmed badly. It's that the version that you happen to compile with had a bug in it. And
Had
now
a
you're
problem with the thing that you depended on. Yeah. So at
Computers
anyway,
are hard.
that was
Yeah.
basically the conversation we had. The article was basically blaming Chrome's problems on the language that it's written in, and it's like, well, I guess if that's like I own a firearm and now my foot hurts. Oh, I shot myself with it.
Because you didn't know what you were doing.
Because you didn't know what you were doing. Yeah.
Let's fight about it on Facebook.
We should. Nobody should be allowed to use C. That's what it should be. There should be a law. C is dangerous. Okay, I'm going to leave that there.
Just C with a bump stock. As long as you don't have a bump stock. On
Right,
C, it's
it
good.
can't have a bump stock or larger
just
than a
move to D.
10-round clip.
we move to D, everything will be better.
Yes,
you
we
go.
should all move to D. D would be better.
Yeah.
All right.
Right.
So, is there anything else in the way of announcements? I mean, there's pretty much no conferences coming up. Are there any virtual conferences coming up? I don't know about. What's up?
There's
What about?
there's virtual conferences like every day.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
there's almost too
do
many.
do you know of any that are worth putting in the notes that we want to talk about? Because I'm completely disconnected apparently.
No, I think they're all posting everything on Facebook, and I don't get that.
That's terrible. What
No,
about?
seriously, I know there's tons of them going on. I'm not even I don't have the time.
Yeah.
I don't have time to go to
So,
any. So
I'm going to be that guy.
What guy?
To me, virtual conferences are not worth it. Because to me, the best part of conferences are the hallway conversations, the random interactions, the free booze,
Mm-hmm.
all the stuff,
Especially the free
all
booze.
that cool stuff. So sitting in my office chair, the last thing I want to be doing is be on another friggin' webcast or another whatever watching a conference.
I mean, if your goal is to see the talks, though, like some people get value out of that. But you're right. I agree with you. I think that
Yeah.
Give me my personal opinion.
yeah,
the
no, I've heard
the
this
meeting
opinion
people.
100 times.
Didn't Jason? Didn't we get to drink what's his name's booze when we were at DerbyCon? Who was that
Drank
rapper
a
that
lot
didn't
of
show
people
up?
booze at DerbyCon.
No, who was the
Who's-
guy that
who's
didn't show
talking
up? The guy who didn't show up that demanded all that booze and DerbyCon bought it all and then Dave handed it out in the lobby because he didn't show up.
Oh, the dipshit rapper dude.
What the hell was his name? I can't even remember. That's
I
how
don't
much
remember.
I follow it.
Yeah.
Well, we got to drink his booze. Dave Kennedy gave us shots. It was great.
Yeah, he claimed, what was it? He claimed he called and said he couldn't make it because of some emergency or something, and then wouldn't you know it, up on Twitter shows up a picture of like him and some other famous rapper just hanging out.
Yeah, I can't remember the guy's name. That's terrible.
Doesn't matter. I mean,
Some famous rapper.
He was that bad that we don't remember him.
Well, no, he was. That's the thing, though. He was some famous rapper they were gonna have,
Yeah,
like some slightly outdated but famous rapper.
yeah, but whatever.
Isn't DerbyCon like the hardest of drinking cons? Maybe.
I was in an alcoholic haze through a great deal of Summit in Boston, so I don't know.
Yeah.
So DerbyCon
DerbyCon's a whole different level, Mark.
they
It
outdrank
very well might be.
A whole different level.
They outdrank the entirety of the Kentucky Derby the first day of the first year.
Oh my.
Yeah.
It
So
took the hotel 3 years or 4 years. It might have been 4 years until they stocked
Yeah.
enough
Yep.
alcohol
Yep.
so that
And
they were
then-
not completely dry by the last day of DerbyCon.
And then it was like a challenge. Every year they were like, can we get enough beer, enough alcohol to feed DerbyCon?
The first year of DerbyCon,
DerbyCon's
because
like,
they,
can we drain this place dry?
Yes.
so the
It's a
first
complete
year,
escalation.
Friday, I think it was Friday night, the first year, they drank the hotel dry and then proceeded to go up and down this 4th Street Live.
The hotel was
drank-
like going out to bars and buying their liquor and bringing it back to the hotel.
Yeah, which didn't last long because
Because
the
all the-
con went up and down the street and drank 3
Con!
or 4 different bars dry.
Yeah, it was.
People were just driving out. You know, they were just
I
leaving
don't-
the con to go find liquor.
I don't think Louisville knew what they had coming.
That's amazing.
But now it's over.
Yeah, now it's over.
So with respect to the virtual conferences, I was talking to some people about the conferences in general, and that's a big thing is the hallway con and all everything that comes with it. And there was a lot of talk about what this is because of this whole situation, and because this is a thing that has to happen at the moment. They're expecting that by the end of the year or early next year, you're going to see some pretty big innovations in virtual conferencing, in what they can do, and in what features will be available, and whether or not they can replicate something like Hallway Con in a virtual environment.
I'll say that they tried with Red Hat Summit, but I didn't really.
The chat
It didn't work.
The chat was substandard. I can't believe how bad the chat was, considering how much money I'm sure we paid them.
Yeah. But yeah, given the short time frame in which they turned Red Hat Summit into a virtual conference, and given the scope of Red Hat Summit, I thought it went about as well as I could expect.
Right.
But it certainly wasn't like an in-person experience.
The axe I have to grind is not with the Red Hatters who busted their asses to make it virtual. The axe I have to grind is with this vendor that supposedly does this crap all day, every day for a living prior to COVID.
Yeah.
And I looked at their chat facility and it sucked. I wrote a better chat program in Java on a Macintosh 20 friggin' years ago.
But did it support
but they haven't had to innovate.
Yeah,
There's
right.
been no reason for them to innovate for how many years. It's always just worked, and so what?
And people keep paying.
I think
So-
I think
So-
next
so-
time we just need to do this all in Second Life
Right. Well, so that's funny because I remember
Or Minecraft.
or Minecraft.
I remember it's got to
In
be
VR.
a decade ago, going to a virtual conference where you had a little avatar that you walked around, and you
Yeah.
went to the vendor booths, and you went to the different things, right? Like, and it sucked. I mean, it was horrible, and the lag was terrible, but it was different, and it was semi sort of interesting, and you could actually talk with other people by walking up to them. Now, that's something that we've seen the Holiday Hackfest do. for the past
Yeah.
couple years.
Holiday
they just
Hack,
wrote
that's
that. Yeah, so they've had that for a while now, but the big vendors. I was talking to one of the founders of B-Sides Delaware,
Mhm.
and we were talking about this, like, what do we do if we're going to do a virtual conference? Like, what's out there? And he said, we've because of the businesses he's in and what they do, they've had conversations with all of the big vendors of virtual conferences, and they're all basically the same, and nobody has innovated anything new in years. He said they all suck. He said it doesn't matter how much you pay, they're horrible.
It's because nobody thinks an online virtual conference can ever go anywhere, but now we're forced to do it.
Right. And VR is interesting because you could do some really neat stuff in VR. The problem, of course, being that
Not everybody has the tech.
most people don't have VR.
Right.
So,
Right.
You
That's
need that
putting it
tech
kindly. Not everybody has.
I mean,
And some
you
people-
could, like, there's lots of VR experiences that have a normal desktop and keyboard experience that isn't quite as good,
Pancake.
right?
The
But
pancake experience.
the pancake
yeah.
experience, is that what it's called? Did you
That's what
VR
we call it,
snobs?
pancake. That's what us VR snobs call it.
The
I can't
pancake
ever play
experience.
this in pancake mode again because it's flat, you know.
Like, don't get me wrong, it would be awesome to just like step into a VR rig of some sort, or even just a helmet and experience a conference that way. But if you could do the same thing in a virtual world where it's just played like, Quake, right?
Use friggin' Minecraft.
Right. Well, yeah, sure.
Use friggin' Minecraft in a
That's
Discord
actually
server.
come up. That's come up a couple times. I mean, one of the other things we talked about was can we as part of the the fee for going to the conference, send everybody a cardboard, the Google Cardboard VR thing. Can we
Yeah.
do something with that platform?
Except Google doesn't
And,
support those anymore.
Well, right, but I mean, or something similar.
Yeah.
But the point
Yeah.
is, like, in addition to, the various vendors that are out there. I mean, it's either you pay a bunch of money and get a honestly shitty experience, or it is a boatload of effort to pull one of these off. I mean, I would almost say that it might actually be more effort than it takes to pull off an in-person conference.
Yeah, because you don't have to build a world. One already exists.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. I don't know.
So
And
that was actually
I hate to trash talk it because we're kind of stuck, but it's just virtual conferences don't do it for me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can't have
They
vendors
don't
hand you
excite
beer.
me.
We need replicators. If we had replicators, it would be better. Then a vendor could replicate you a beer.
Beer
right in
over
your desk.
TCP/IP, right?
Yeah, beer over TCP. So anyway, that's what I was going to ask you regarding conferences. Does B-Sides have a plan? Like, do they have any idea where it's going to be going?
We're playing it by ear.
Where we go now?
We were, of course, the hope is that things will be calmed down by then and we'll be able to do this. I mean, my personal opinion, we're in for round 2, and round 2 might be worse than round 1, or could actually be considerably worse than round 1. And it's already starting to take an uptick. So, I'm not overly hopeful that we're going to be able to have an in-person conference.
Yeah.
The jury's out on whether we want to do a virtual conference for all of the reasons that we just talked about, basically. So I'm not sure. We have a meeting.
Yeah, I
next
mean,
week
I
to
can only
discuss
imagine.
what's going on.
I can only imagine there's no way that you'd have an answer yet. But I was just curious if you had some kind of
Yeah.
idea of what the plan might look like.
Yeah, I mean, we technically have dates. Of course, I mean, the other piece of that is will the venue be open that we can even use those dates? Because that's
Mhm.
going to fit into it too. And if
Yep.
the venue's not open, well, throws that out. Do we look for another venue? Do we, what do we do? And I think across the board is, as much as we want to have an in-person conference and as much as we want this to happen, we would rather cancel the conference to keep people safe than have something.
And there's a lot of events that have done that exactly. The Jeep Jamboree that I guide for, there was supposed to be one in spring. They just flat out canceled. They're like, we're not going to reschedule it. We're just going to cancel it. We'll see what it looks like in the summer when the next Jamboree is supposed to be, and that's in August.
Was canceled.
What's that?
DEF CON was canceled. I'm sorry. DEF CON is in what do they call it? Hibernation mode or whatever it is.
Oh, they couldn't use the word cancel because that would ruin the joke.
No. But I have the official DEF CON shirt that says DEF CON is canceled. So
yeah.
So I mean, they're playing to their strengths. They're going virtual basically.
Yeah.
Hope has gone virtual.
Maybe I can go to DEF CON this year. Is it going to be free?
What's that?
Maybe I can go to DEF CON this year. Then is it free?
I don't know. Maybe. I know Hope is virtual. My son is supposed to be speaking at Hope. So we'll see how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much everything for the next month or two is virtual, and then after that, it's a big black question mark.
Yeah. Right.
Who knows?
Right. Well, is what it is, I guess. We'll see how it goes. Play it by ear. So,
My ear.
anything fun to chat about? I've been in training all week.
Are you trained yet?
Lots of fun.
Army training, sir.
Not quite. No, it does feel that way.
What are you learning?
It's the new RHCE is all Ansible, so that's what I'm learning.
All right. So are you in the second course,
Really?
the one that's the Ansible stuff?
I'm in the RHCE version 8 course, which is all Ansible.
I'm sorry. I'm disappointed.
as someone who's been an RHC since RHEL 5, who works at Red Hat, who if you cut me, I bleed red. Well, I guess I would
We
anyway.
kind of all do
I
that, don't we?
agree. I'm
Yeah.
disappointed that we pivoted.
I
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
I got certified on RHEL 4. RHEL 4?
So you've been certified longer than me.
No, it was RHEL 5. I'm sorry. I got
Okay.
certified in RHEL
Yeah.
5 twice because my employer was dumb. And it was the most meaningful certification I've ever taken in my life. At the
Right?
end, when I was done with the certification, I was like, wow,
Yeah, you're like
I feel like I did something.
your brain is fried and you feel like you actually just ran a mile or more.
Yeah.
Probably more than a mile. Depends on how much mileage you're used to running, I suppose. and yeah, you feel like, wow, I just did something. Even if
Yeah.
I failed, I just did a hell of a lot
I
of
just
work.
did a thing.
Yeah, when I took it, I guess I can talk about it now. I mean, when I took it, the test was, I mean, you had the portion of the test which was, I'm going to walk over and put a disk in your computer and break it, and you have to fix it.
Right, the troubleshooting half,
Yep.
and then they gave you a blank machine.
They gave
and
you a blank
thick
machine.
sheet of requirements.
No,
Make it do this.
I got a blank machine and a memo. Here is your memo. Build this.
Yeah,
I went, oh, okay.
That wasn't quite the format when I took it on RHEL 6, but it was similar. It was the same
Yeah.
basic thing. And there were a number of people who came in on exam day, sat down at their computers, and basically couldn't start.
Yeah.
And those of
Yeah.
you that have been through it know why.
Yeah, exactly. And look, I Ansible is absolutely important, and I think it's a great technology to learn. But
Yeah.
I think making the certified engineer course revolve around Ansible is a mistake, because great, I can make Ansible do things, but I'm just going to go and download the playbooks from somewhere, and I don't actually have to know how anything works. I mean, I don't know if you can talk about it, but I mean,
So,
do
I
they even
mean,
do a troubleshooting section anymore?
So I haven't taken the exam yet. I have no idea what the exam's going to be like, and no one has told me what the exam's going to be like because NDA. But from what I understand, it's basically write a bunch of Ansible from scratch. It's you're asked to do
Yeah.
things, and I don't know if it's presented in a way where it's like you have 24 machines to manage, make them all do these things, and thus you have to leverage Ansible, or if it's like these artificial, as I hit my mic, or if it's like these artificial constraints where there's these very simple tasks that you can go do on your own, but we really want you to do them in Ansible. I don't know if that's how it's going to be, and I won't be able to tell you when I'm done anyway. So,
No, I
but
get it.
I'm sure
I get
there's
it.
pre-tests and stuff out there that'll answer these questions, but I haven't even looked into that yet because I started doing the training. I'm not a developer, right? And I get it. Ansible's not a programming language, but there's a lot of programmy-like concepts that you have to grasp.
Right.
And I wasn't doing well with the self-paced training, which is the sort of thing I normally would have aced with this sort of thing. But with Ansible, I just wasn't. So I'm doing an actual virtual training, which is like an actual instructor-led training where we all join a Blue Jeans session in the morning and we do our training during the day. And the guy's good, and he's going pretty in depth. I have a much better understanding of Ansible, and like I feel like I could actually sit down and write a role now. I can manage Ansible stuff. I can do stuff with Ansible without having to go look it up and go download things. So I'm happy for all that, but I really am kind of disappointed because the RHEL 6 RHCE when I took it was just what we described. It was like a feat, right? Like you felt like you accomplished something, and who knows? Maybe after the RHEL 8 RHCE, I'll be like, I was totally wrong, guys. This was a hard test, and it is definitely up to par with what I remember, or maybe I won't. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to be like.
I mean, I hope it's hard, and I expect it to be hard.
Yeah.
I just my I guess my gear to grind with it is that you're not learning the system, you're learning Ansible.
Yeah.
And I think that's
So
that's a problem.
the argument there, and I've had this conversation with other Red Hatters, people that do think we went in the right direction when we switched that exam, is that learning Ansible is the new way that people should be learning how to manage systems. Now, obviously, we have a little bit invested in Ansible, and that's probably part of it, but I feel like it's a sales pitch, and that's what I don't like.
I don't disagree that it's the so yes, I think Ansible or Puppet or Chef or insert whatever CF Engine or whatever crazy
Salt stack.
Salt stack, whatever crazy automation tool you want to use is the right way to manage systems these days, especially as we get to the the cattle portion of the program. But I think that what my problem with it is not the tool that you're using to manage it. It's that I think from what it sounds like is that you're in a course learning Ansible. You're not in a course learning about RHEL.
Right.
And that I find to be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is the way in which Red Hat is hoping that they can get the next generation of systems administrators to think more like cattle, to think more in the cattle perspective when they're dealing with servers. But I really feel like this should be an add-on certificate or a certification above the RHCE, or maybe in between the SA and the CE or something.
Well, here's the funny thing. The RHCE half now, and we have totally rabbit holed, and it's 10-9.
Yeah, we have. Luckily, we don't have as much news to cover.
We had a perfectly good Ansible course that was that essentially.
Yeah.
So you could, if they had kept it where the way that Red Hat has done it with at least RHEL 7, I didn't cert on 6, but with RHEL 7, and this is not violating NDA, the RHCSA part was all the stuff you need to know as a client, and the CE half was here's how you set up server-based stuff, so it was a continuation and more in-depth material where you needed to be able to set up an NFS server that served out encrypted content. Not just mount the thing, you needed to actually set it up.
When I did it on 6, the SA was like the RHCE Lite is basically what it was like, the more introductory level stuff, but it was all server related. There was no like client setup stuff. It was still very server related, but it was stuff like here's how you install Apache, here's how you set up set it up to do a thing, here's how you like do those sort of tasks. And then CE was like, here's how to set up an iSCSI initiator, right? Here's how to do like SE Linux and everything, like the more advanced stuff.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if you had to do Apache shit with RHCSA and 7. I don't remember. Because it all kind of blurs. Because I did the boot camp where you took the whole thing in one day.
Yeah.
Both tests in one day.
Yeah.
I don't know.
At any rate, yes. I don't know. We'll see once I take the exam if I change my opinion of it. And
well, we'll be here, man. Second and fourth week of every month.
Indeed.
So you can check in with us.
Yeah.
Nate's like, it's my damn podcast. I know that.
Yeah, come on. But maybe the viewers don't. The viewers are like, can you get on with it? Because like the show is kind of going in a weird place here.
Stupid
I got a 3D
Hat-Hatters.
printer.
You got a 3D printer? Cool.
Yeah.
My daughter has asked for a 3D printer.
There's my boat.
Yeah,
nice. My 3D printer is not calibrated yet because I had to get a replacement part, and I just haven't bothered.
Boat? I don't know.
Nope.
Whatever.
Can't see the boat. All we see is your background.
So yeah, we my son and I both got Ender 5 Pros, and we've been sort of messing with them, and it's neat.
I've got another friend who just bought an Ender whatever. I don't know if it's the same one you got or not, but that's you are the, I guess, second and third people I know of that have bought them now.
Yeah, they're decent. I mean, it's you have to assemble it when you get it and sort of level it and figure all that bits out, and then it prints really well.
Mark, what's the brand on yours? Like Value Price or something? Monoprice. That's the same brand we bought that we gave away for the Derby.
Yeah.
I had to have it.
Monoprice is what my son started with.
I had to replace it twice, and when I replaced it the second time, I spent more money and upgraded to the next model up because the model was discontinued. And then it had another component failed, and they sent me a whole new printhead assembly, and now it can't friggin' tell where the bed is. I gotta call support and see if I can figure it out. And I just haven't felt like fighting with it.
Yeah, I've been having fun with it. It's it's really quiet, so I'll sit here while I'm working and start a print and forget that it's running.
That's cool. And Mark, let me guess, you were smoking some meat this week.
You were smoking some weed this week?
Meat.
No, meat.
Meat.
I mean, I did burgers on the egg tonight. What was the last long? I did a pork butt Did we do a pork butt on the weekend?
That just sounds funny every time I hear anybody say it.
Yeah. No, I've done some chicken lately. I'm actually so tomorrow as part of what did I call it? Uh
Vice
so
Day.
so
Didn't you call it
Vice Day. There you go. Vice Day. Yeah. So my son and I had to have blood work done. You probably can't see the boo-boo. We had blood work done this morning for my annual stuff, but also to see if I had the COVID back in April. So I should know that soon.
Cool.
I hope I had the COVID. That way I'll feel either resistant or immune. But because it was fasting blood work, because I got the diabetes.
Mhm.
I was hungry, so we stopped at the Golden Arches and picked up a little breakfast food. And my daughter was all pissed because I didn't get her anything. Now, mind you, my daughter's not 8; she's 21.
You didn't get her a Happy Meal?
No. So I said, "All right, I've got tomorrow off. You have that Tanuki sake set, which I didn't talk about that on the podcast. We're Animal Crossing fans, and there was this Tanuki sake set which she ordered on Amazon, which is amazing. So I'm going to put that in the show notes for people who want to buy it.
There you go.
This is under chat, right?
Yes, put it in the chat.
Yeah. So anyway, tomorrow we're going to go to the liquor store, and Daddy's going to get some more bourbon because I used my last Buffalo Trace tonight. I'm going to get some sake for Abby. I mean, she could buy it legally, but she doesn't have money yet because she hasn't gotten her first check from her summer work she's doing now. Then we're going to do McDonald's probably for lunch so she can get some chicken because she likes the chicken. So, and then the third vice will be going
McDonald's,
off.
it's not real chicken.
It's all white meat, man. It says it right in the ad.
We don't care. We know it's. But after that, we're going to go to Nello's, which is my favorite meat place. They're a local butcher here in Nazareth. That's amazing. I have to restock on things to smoke. Yeah, I need at least another pork butt or two, some ribs, some chicken, burgers. We got to stock up a bit. I haven't been there in a bit. And then I've got a beautiful steak for myself for Father's Day for next weekend, a T-bone and 2 New York strips. I'm probably going to grab another New York strip or 2 for the people who are not me.
There you go. I definitely need to pick up some beer and some, I don't know, either whiskey or bourbon. I don't know, something to make old fashions with. But with that, we're almost at 2 hours and we haven't covered the news yet. We should cover the news. What do you think?
I mean, I got tomorrow. I don't care.
All right.
We had a break, so someone listening to the podcast, it might not be 2 hours yet.
I don't have a cool transition screen to go to the news, so I'm gonna hit the old button. What do you think?
Hit the button. Are we gonna hear it?
Probably not. Nope.
I don't hear anything, so I can't rock out to it.
We can just talk over it. It'll drive Nate nuts to talk over it.
Like we did with Greg Scott last time. Did you hear Greg's story of Clayton Oosterhouse? Did you listen to the last podcast?
You guys are terrible. Did you really not hear them? You should have. You have to have heard the music.
3 months behind on podcasts, so no.
Got to listen to it.
Clayton Oosterhouse. Even if you just, even Mark has a link somewhere that takes you directly to the story of Clayton Oosterhouse on the stream.
That I can do.
We can send that. We can send that to you.
I think it's ironically on the Facebook.
Clayton Oosterhouse.
All right, Nate, tell me about the PlayStations.
So honestly, I feel terrible for not knowing more about this because I am a PlayStation fan, as Jason knows, which is why I'm sure he got his little comment about me and the PlayStation in just a second ago. But anyway, the PlayStation 5 is apparently a thing that's coming out soon, and there was like a broadcast about it today that I haven't seen. But I wanted to include the thing about where to go watch it in the notes here.
So it's funny. I listened to a gaming podcast, and they were talking about it yesterday about how the podcast is going to be the stream is going to be today for the PlayStation. Blah 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 blah. Yeah. And then today's episode of the gaming podcast came out, and while I have not listened to the entire thing yet, there's not a single mention of the PlayStation in it.
Apparently the thing got rescheduled today. Like Again? It was supposed. This says 1 p.m. and I think it got bumped later. Or I don't know. I thought I saw somewhere that it had got bumped later. So maybe that's why they didn't get to talk about it yet.
So today was already a reschedule.
Oh, was
So
maybe that's what I
supposed
saw
to-
then. I don't know.
It was supposed to happen like last week. So if it got rescheduled again, that's just too funny.
Okay. So there's a very nice picture of what I presume is the new PlayStation controller, which looks very sleek and sexy. Beyond that, I don't know anything about this. So sorry. But hey, if you like PlayStations, there's a new one coming out. And there might be a live stream you can watch. Maybe not live anymore, but there's a stream that you can watch.
Yeah, I owned a PS3, which I gave to Abby. So I guess I still sort of own it, and I have a PS4. I use the PS4 99% to just watch streaming. Like I've got games on it that I never play.
I had a PlayStation 1 back in the 90s. I never
was on a famous TV show.
I never had a PS2, but I had a 3 and a 4.
BoJack the horse, BoJack.
In fact, the 3 goes with me to the DEF CON 610 meetups whenever we actually have them.
Oh yeah, I was there.
So
I stood out in the outside of Walmart at dark 30 to pick up a PS2 when it came out.
Yeah, that's right. You did have a PS2. I remember now.
Yeah. So
yeah,
I had a PS2.
you went and switched to the evil side and went with Microsoft.
So I had a PS2 and I was super excited about the PS3, and I couldn't afford one at the time. And when I finally got one, I spent hours trying to love this thing, and I just couldn't. And I had an Xbox on a whim and just fell in love with it, and I've been on Xbox ever since.
I don't know what you didn't like about the PS3, but I mean, it's a different ecosystem than the Xbox. I think Microsoft really does a job of making a whole community around the thing, which might be what you like about it. I've never been much of an online gamer, so to me, I just want a console that works well locally, and that's exactly what PlayStation gives me. So I'm good with that. So
no, I got into. I'm not even sure. So first it was, I guess, the people that were around to play with. That had Xboxes, and then I sort of fell into the Xbox podcast, the Major Nelson's podcast, and that sort of ignited things, and I was getting information there. And then just more recently, I really like the Game Pass subscription. So I'm always getting new games and being able to play different things, and that's just sort of where we exist. So it's funny that I like Xbox because I am not a Microsoft fan at all.
Yeah.
Not even remotely.
That was the first thing that turned me off to Microsoft. But you and that, I think in the same podcast you're talking about, it feels like Xbox is like a whole different ball game than Microsoft. And even Microsoft has gotten better over the years. So,
yeah. Yeah, and I'm fairly excited for the new Xbox Series X. I mean, I'm kind of counting the days till I can get my hands on one. I
mean,
think,
they're not going to call it like an Xbox Zero or something? Because it seemed like they were going backwards for a while there.
Yeah, well,
there was the Xbox, and then there was there was like the first Xbox, and then there was the 360, and then there was the Xbox One that isn't the first Xbox, but in fact was the third.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's just the way it goes.
I know.
So anyway. That was directly from PlayStation's blog. The next article comes from Computer World, and it's a complete editorial thing. This is not news. It's just a thing that I ran across, and I just had to talk about it because, well, it's Android, and he's talking about a subscription service to go with Android. So I was not aware, but he brings this up in the article here, that Samsung has come up with this thing called Samsung Access, which is a thing that you pay $40 freaking a month for in exchange for certain like extra features surrounding your Samsung devices surrounding your Samsung devices.
If I read it correctly, as part of that you get a phone.
Did I miss that part? That makes a little more sense then.
Yeah, because I think I did the same thing as you. I looked at it, I was like $30 or $40 or whatever it was.
Yeah, it says it's an exchange for a current Galaxy
S phone. Okay, right. Galaxy S phone, access to Samsung's Premium Care program, and Microsoft 365 subscription. I don't know what a Office 365 subscription is, or Microsoft 365 subscription costs.
LibreOffice, man. It's free.
But I get LibreOffice for free, and I get Google Docs for free. So
Yeah, no, it depends on which 365 subscription they're talking about.
Yeah.
So, it could be $6 a month for like online everything that sucks.
Oh, and a terabyte of
12
OneDrive.
bucks a month for like being able to download it and run it on your computer, and so it
Oh,
doesn't suck quite as much, but still
good.
sucks.
So then apparently Apple is. There's been leaked news. I don't know if Apple announced this. There's been leaked news that Apple could be following suit, doing a similar thing. I don't know if it'll include Microsoft 365.
Well, so what I read about the Apple one is that it's more of a bundle of their services for one price, as opposed to
Like
what
for
they
Apple
have
TV,
now.
for Apple Music.
Yeah, that's what they're hinting at here. That it's Apple TV, Apple Music, and such offerings.
Right.
I
Yeah,
don't
but
know
it
what
doesn't
else
include
there
a phone.
is, but
Right. That doesn't include a phone though.
doesn't include a phone. No, that's because they can't afford to give away iPhones. I guess they're not giving them away. Samsung's not giving away. So anyway, this guy's speculating what it would look like if Android did the same thing, and he goes into like all kinds of things about updates and how
Google specifically, not Android. Google.
Yes, right, Google. But he goes into like how phone providers are supposed to be giving you updates for Android for 2 years, which is a thing we've talked about a number of times on this show, which is kind of why I thought this might be a thing that we would talk about. And bundling other services. And my first reaction to this was, do not start charging me for the privilege to use my Android device, because I will be very angry if you do so. But on the other hand, I started thinking about it. I already pay Google for a couple services. I pay them for YouTube Music, because that's the music streaming service of choice that I picked. I pay them for Google Drive. I might not be
And
opposed.
this looks like this would all be aligned with the Pixels,
Yeah.
as I'm reading this. And this is one guy
yeah,
who's writing an editorial.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to be clear to that. This is not news. This is not a thing that Google is doing. But yeah, whatever. I could definitely sort of see where this guy's envisioning Google going if they do this. Not that there's any talk that they will, but I could definitely see this as like a really quick fit, because Google already has a couple services that you can pay for, and they already have a line of phones. So, pay you some, you pay some subscription service, you get a new phone, and you get Android's ecosystem. I mean, that's like a complete win for Google.
So if I pay the subscription, will my Android stay up to date?
Well, your Pixel already does, and that's the phones they're talking about.
I know. I'm just.
It's one of the.
Well, this is a fantasy, so it
Yeah.
can do whatever you want it
Yes,
to do.
right. In
Vote
fact,
for Pedro. All your dreams will come true.
it'll also make you toast in the morning if you pay the subscription service.
I like toast.
Sort of like your laptop does.
Yeah, no kidding.
He likes fresh toast, and he cannot lie.
If
The
you
other
notice
Jesus
the
can't
video,
deny.
I'm probably getting more and more lagged. I had to close my browser and Slack because the machine is actually like starting to stutter really bad on my end.
Would
Listen,
you
my-
consider turning off your background image?
No, he needs that.
Yeah.
Honestly,
It didn't seem to help when you turned it off.
it didn't help before. I mean, I can.
I don't know.
So-
I was just,
My daughter left her laptop here on the desk. Do you want it?
Yeah, I think that's.
It might work just as well as the one you're on.
is that a laptop from those little dolls that she likes?
Yes, it's a little plastic laptop. Complete just like
So-
plastic garbage.
So for the viewers at home, I have one of the apples that has the ever expanding battery that I'm supposed to take in and get fixed, but not having a computer for multiple weeks is sort of difficult when I have stuff to do.
Like work and stuff.
Will it expand to the point where it explodes?
Yeah, apparently it will.
Yeah, eventually.
It is expanded to the point where the cover, like if I close the laptop, there's a gap now.
Nice.
Oh my!
I do wonder. I have a MacBook.
And it is cooking.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to figure out how to check this, because I have a MacBook that's of similar age to the one you have, at least the one I remember you having. I don't use it anymore, but I gave it to my wife, and I'm curious if it has an affected battery. It's not expanding that I know
Yeah.
of. At least
Yeah,
not
it's
yet.
funny. My personal machine and my work machine both have affected batteries.
Oh, that's nice.
My personal machine started showing signs first.
Oh,
And my work machine has recently started showing the same signs.
Wow.
So my luck runs as it usually does.
Yeah, it
I
sounds
have a
that
new
way.
machine coming for a new personal machine coming. It's just There's
Take some
something
time.
going on in the world right now, and it's slowing things down.
My
I'm not sure what
gosh.
it is, but
Yeah, like you can't buy anything right now. Well, you can buy like the most random stuff, but like things that you might think like an Apple, like a laptop. Why is that slow? I guess because
like
supply
toilet
chains are
paper.
disrupted or whatever.
So there's the link for you in chat, Jason. There's my favorite meme around. Well, there's your problem.
There's a link for me in chat.
Which
Yeah.
chat? You mean the Zoom chat? I can't open that because it'll screw up OBS.
No, I meant the chat, the YouTube chat, so that everybody can click on it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, well, in about 3 minutes when it shows up on our screen, I'll be able to see it.
I was gonna say, I'm not
But
seeing it in the
if
chat,
you're
but
if you got
okay.
YouTube open,
He didn't do that. His machine will catch fire.
Close my Zoom is the only thing running right now, and I'm pretty
All
sure
right.
that my laptop is about to take off.
All
But I
right,
can-
so maybe we should move on to the next.
You can see Zoom chat, so I'm going to throw it in Zoom chat for you. There you go, Jason.
Wow, it just popped up over top of the thing. Thanks, good job, Mark.
It did?
Yeah, it popped over on me. There.
Oh.
Wow, I've got
Oh,
Because
that's
of the way I'm
embarrassing.
capturing Zoom to bring it to OBS.
I
Anyway,
didn't
let's
know
get
it would
on
do
to the
that.
next thing.
New technologies. We'll fix it in production.
Yeah, we'll fix it later, right? Okay.
Rolling updates.
All right. So the next article I have is from How to Geek, and
next two articles actually. 'cause
what's
they're
that?
Both similar. The next
Are they?
two articles are actually both similar.
oh wow, did I accidentally put two of them in here? Well, that
Well,
actually.
one's for Android
I put the
and one's
second
for
one in.
iOS.
Oh, I get it.
All right, so go ahead with your article, and I'll follow. Fine.
So this one is titled "How to Turn Off COVID-19 Exposure Tracking and Notifications on Android." Now, this is basically a how-to article that popped up in one of the Google notification things that I have because it said Android or something. I'm not necessarily advocating that you turn these things off. It just sort of brought up the topic in my brain, and that's why I threw it in here. What I really wanted to mention was like simply here's where you find the settings if you wanted to turn it off or on, right? It is a thing that is off by default, or at least it's supposed to be off by default. If you want to turn it on because you want to do contact tracing, then here's where to find it. If you want to make sure that it's not on, here's where to find it, right? So it's up to you whether you want to turn it on or not. And I also want to say that John the Nice Guy was nice enough to show up, like the nice guy that he is, in our Slack workspace, and he was talking about contact tracing. And he had a different understanding, or at least some more clarity on how this is deployed. And I don't know, the way he presented it, it doesn't sound like it's the boogeyman that we had read it to be when we first talked about it on the show. And in fact, when we talked about it last time on the show. Now, last time we didn't paint it in quite the negative light that we did the first time we talked about it, because the first time it was all very, like, unknown, right? It was just, oh, look, we're going to track everyone you've been in contact with, and that's all they really said. And that sounds like a terrible idea to me. But,
yeah, so there's contact tracing apps out there, especially from third world countries or other countries that are incredibly draconian in how they're tracking things, to the point where I think a couple of them were EU countries, and they put a stop to it damn fast because there's too much data. In contrast to that, both Apple and Google got together and created their contact tracing very differently with privacy in mind.
Yeah.
So the entire idea behind it is that it is invisible, if you will, to Google and Apple, and actually won't come into play unless you activate it and need to be able to trace who you've been in contact with. So it's very privacy aware.
Yeah. And it is also, as I mentioned, off by default, which I was surprised at. I thought this was definitely a thing, given the landscape of the COVID-19 pandemic. This would be a thing that they would silently turn on. I don't know if that's a legal thing or if that's because they're actually trying to do the right thing here. Could be both.
The follow-up article is the exact same thing for Apple, by the way.
Oh, is that what your other article is? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
contact tracing for Apple as well, and you can disable that.
Yeah, and that's from 9 to 5 Mac, folks. So if you wanted to go look at them in the show notes, if you want to know how to turn those features on or off on your device, there they are. All right. And this is the last article. I fail. I didn't read this. I wanted to read this. It's about securing your work machines during the COVID-19 work from home crap. Not crap. I shouldn't call it crap. It is starting to feel like it though. But we're all at home working now, and you don't get what?
You were hired as a fully remote employee before COVID.
No, you're right. But this is different for people who weren't used to it. Right.
Okay.
So mainly this thing caught my attention because I'm trying to work up a similar article for Enable Sysadmin. And so part of me wanted to force myself to read it so I'd get some more background to go into the article I want to write. And part of it is because it seemed relevant to the show. But I'm going to leave it in the show notes if anybody wants to read it. It's from incyberdefense.com, and it's titled, During COVID-19, Remote Workers Must Maintain Cybersecurity. So,
I mean, it's a little Dick and Jane-ish, like See Dick Run, stay on VPN. I mean, it's not bad information, but
yeah.
I suspect most of our listeners will look at it and say, yeah, this is pretty fundamental, like wash your hands after taking a dump, that level of
I don't know, it seemed like a lot of society lost their mind when we told them they were supposed to be washing their hands every day. So I don't know that that's really all that. That's not a good comparison.
Yeah.
So at any
Wash your
rate,
damn hands.
it may be a good thing for people to have handy in case they have friends who maybe aren't used to this or aren't into
to wash
technology.
their hands after taking a dump.
That aren't into wash. Yeah, just like Alton Brown, the guy who does Good Eats or used to do Good Eats on the Food Network. You know Alton Brown. You must. Everybody knows him, right? He's the science cooking guy. Anyway, he did a video on washing your hands right around the time that that COVID-19 became a thing that everybody was worried about, and we were all being told to wash our hands. Basically, how to properly wash your hands so that they're clean and whatever. Well, call this an article about how to wash your hands, except it's about cybersecurity on your work machine while you're working from home.
I mean, it's if you're not part of an organization that has this as part of their training already, it's some good common sense things that maybe you knew them already, maybe you didn't, but it's good common sense things that anyone who's now working remotely should know. We have this training we have to do every year at Red Hat that covers stuff like this. So I'm like, my eyes started to glaze over as I was reading it, but then I'm like, oh, that's right, because
not everybody has to go through that every year.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was in a conversation on Twitter a while ago about working from home, where one of the questions was, if your employer wanted to run a pen test against your house or wanted to, install software that was listening to connections on your network,
Mm-hmm.
is that something that would bother you? And it's one of those situations where it's like I can sort of see where the company is coming from, but at the same time, get the hell off my network, damn it.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
there is a privacy
it's
concern
my
there.
network.
Right. There's a point at which you can't, or the company shouldn't be able to penetrate that deep, right? Like, if the company would, this is sort of where the zero trust thing comes into, like, and it's getting a pretty good boost in this current situation.
Yeah.
Treat every network like every other host on the network is your enemy.
Yeah.
And if you can do that, your security's fine.
Theoretically.
I honestly think it's that simple. Like if you can treat every host on a network as the enemy,
treat every host like it's hostile,
that it's an ally, then I think you're good.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's enough for tonight. What do you think? We're at this is 2.5 hours. I think
11 billion hours. I think
we've been recording. Now we did have that break in the middle. That was a good 15 minutes. So hopefully
only 10.5 billion the hours.
Yeah, right. So
on March 132nd.
Yeah.
The year of the plague.
The year of the plague. God. All right. So anyway, folks, those of you who stuck with us live, I actually see five viewers are still hanging out there. Isn't that the same number we had at the beginning? I don't know what we were up to.
I'm one of them. I mean, Josh was on before, but he took a break for dinner, but maybe he came back. I don't know.
Yep. So thank you guys for watching live, even with our new layout and maybe some technical difficulties. If you are listening post recording and you want to know when you can watch us live, it's the second and fourth Thursday of every month at roughly 7 o'clock Eastern, when we can actually manage to go live at 7 o'clock Eastern, which almost never happens.
7 o'clock ISAT.
7 o'clock Iron Sysadmin Standard Time. Which is loosely based.
That's what time it is.
Which is loosely based on Eastern Time.
Loosely.
You can watch us live on YouTube, youtube.com/Iron Sysadmin Podcast. You can also, if you'd like to chat with us or be a part of our community, you can join us on Slack. If you go to ironsysadmin.com/Slack, it'll take you to a persistent sort of invite link for Slack, and that'll get you into our Slack workspace. You can find us on, unfortunately, Facebook and Twitter. Just look for Iron Sysadmin. The Twitter account is @IronSysadmin, and Facebook is just like go bumble around until you search for Iron Sysadmin, because that's kind of how you find things on Facebook. You can subscribe to us wherever you might normally find podcasts, and if you don't find us on wherever you normally find podcasts, let us know. We'll see about getting the show added. And if you'd like to support us monetarily, you can do so via Patreon, patreon.com/Iron Sysadmin. And thank you to anyone who does that. It's, I promise, going to go into improving the audio quality of the show. I finally have a target. We're going to buy a new mixer. So, at any rate...
It's a nice-looking mixer. And then we'll add more sounds into it.
It's going to be a cool mixer. It's going to be a really cool mixer. So, at any rate...
Cooler than Sir Mix-a-Lot?
Cooler?
Probably not.
Well, I don't know. Does it have back?
It cannot lie.
I don't think
Can
it has
your new
back.
mixer make me an old-fashioned?
I wish. That's what we need. We need a mixer that makes old-fashions.
That might be an add-on. Might be a module you have to purchase separately.
That's okay. I'll up my pledge if we can do that.
Ooh. Old-fashioned over TCP/IP.
Old-fashioned over TCP/IP. So yes. I do not have a cool transition screen for ending the show, so I'm just going to play the old sound that we always played, and next time maybe we'll have a cool transition. So thanks for watching, folks, and we'll catch you next time.
Peace. I don't hear anything.
I don't know why you're not hearing anything.
I don't hear anything at all.
I blame Nate.
I don't get why you're not hearing anything.
Is the YouTube hearing anything? Did we test this?
I don't know. Did you guys on YouTube hear that sound? Because I played it.
We're all staring. We're all
yeah, it's working on the YouTube. I just tested.
If you guys... There's no way. Well, whatever. All right, folks. We're going to stop the broadcast now. Hopefully next time we'll have less issues.
I think we did great. I don't think there were that many issues.
I think it went pretty well. I think I have like a we're gone screen. I'm going to go switch to that. So good night, folks.
Is there a red button?
I already pushed the red button.